Chapter 76 begins with Jinho anxiously awaiting his meeting with Jinwoo. In his mind, he knows that Jinwoo's decision will determine his fate, as he needs to recruit Jinwoo just as he promised his father. The restaurant door swings open, and Jinwoo arrives, prompting Jinho to call out to him immediately. Jinho quickly notices that Jinwoo's clothes are dirty. Jinwoo explains that he just came from a dungeon raid, which is why he looks this way. Jinho is amazed to hear that Jinwoo is still actively training. They sit down and discuss Jinho's conversation with his father. Jinwoo then asks if Go Myung-han, one of his companions from the Red Gate, had arrived during Jinho's negotiations with his father to share what happened inside the gate. Jinho confirms this and mentions that Myung-han also spoke about how Jinwoo helped them. Jinwoo ponders why Myung-han would need to do that, leading him to ask Jinho if that means he needs his help to become the master of the Eugene Guild. Jinho responds, saying that he shouldn't feel pressured, as he will give Jinwoo all the decision-making power. The atmosphere turns serious, and Jinwoo swallows hard. The scene shifts to the Hunters Guild headquarters, where Guildmaster Choi Jong-in is speaking with Hunter's son Ki-hoon. Ki-hoon informs Jong-in that Jinwoo has joined one of their raids. Jong-in is taken aback to learn that Jinwoo has been with them not just for a day, but for 2 days, first as a miner and now as a porter. Ki-hoon admits he has no idea why Jinwoo is doing this, but it seems he doesn't intend to interfere with their raid. Since the dungeon boss is a powerful magic beast, they have no choice but to let Jinwoo help. Jong-in remarks that Jinwoo saved the White Tiger Guild hunters before, and now their hunters owe him as well. Ki-hoon describes Jinwoo's abilities, stating that he can summon multiple beasts and is as agile as an assassin hunter. He even has the ability to turn a deceased beast into a soldier. Jong-in questions how strong Jinwoo truly is compared to himself. Ki-hoon explains that in a raid, everyone has different roles that balance and complement each other's weaknesses. A raid is divided into categories: attack, defense, and support. If one role is missing, the entire team could be put in danger. However, Jinwoo is extraordinary. Ki-hoon then asks Jong-in if he could clear an A-rank dungeon by himself. Jong-in thinks that no matter how strong he is, he would struggle to defend himself against multiple beasts. Thus, he replies, probably not, adding that his title of Ultimate Hunter seems like a joke now. Ki-hoon answers seriously that he is not in a position to say this, but he must recruit Jinwoo at all costs. Jong-in responds that he will try his best. The scene shifts to the Hunters Guild Association, where numerous media personnel are gathered, waiting for Lee Min-sung, a famous hunter with a significant evaluation coming up. While in his car, he speaks with his assistant, who remarks that he didn't expect such a large turnout, given the crowd of press waiting outside. Min-sung arrogantly reads an article about himself titled Lee Min-sung, the man who has it all, will soon possess superhuman powers. Outside the Hunters Guild Association, 2 cars arrive, shocking reporters with the unexpected presence of Guild Masters Baek Yoon-ho and Choi Jong-in. Yoon-ho wonders why there are so many reporters and what's going on. A reporter suddenly asks if they are there to recruit Mr. Lee Min-sung and what they have to say about it. Yoon-ho, confused about who they're referring to, replies that he has nothing to say, as he didn't come for Min-sung. Jong-in responds that Mr. Lee has signed a contract with the Fiend Guild, which everyone likely knows, and they are there for another reason. Reporters scratch their heads, hoping to find some scoop. As Baek Yoon-ho and Choi Jong-in stand together, Yoon-ho mentions that the Hunters Guild also had a close call yesterday, referring to Jinwoo saving his hunters while smiling teasingly. Jong-in counters that at least they didn't lose an A-rank rookie like the White Tiger Guild. This remark irritates Yoon-ho, who points out that both of their guilds have received help from Jinwoo. Jong-in adds that without Jinwoo, his entire second-tier squad might have died, which is why he wants to recruit him. It's the ethical thing to do, he added. Yoon-ho insists that their guild has suffered and needs to strengthen itself, making it more sensible to recruit Jinwoo. Jong-in asked why Yoon-ho felt the need to strengthen his guild by recruiting another S-rank hunter, asking if he have plans to start a war. Yoon-ho retorted, questioning when Jong-in had started to become a man of ethics. Just then, Lim Tae-gyu, the guild master of the Fiend Guild and former #1 major guild in South Korea, arrives and inquires if they are bickering over Min-sung. The 2 guild masters, furious, shout back that they have no interest in Lee Min-sung or whatever his name is. Taegyu, taken aback, wonders what is going on. The scene shifts to Lee Min-sung, who spots Choi Jong-in and Baek Yoon-ho. Arrogantly, he remarks that he can't believe the country's best guilds are fighting over him, thinking that the two guild masters are there for him. His driver announces that the interview is about to start. As he steps out, he is met by a throng of reporters. The chapter concludes with Jinwoo arriving at the Hunter Association for his re-evaluation, puzzled by the large crowd outside the building. Chapter 77 begins with Jinwoo arriving at the Hunter Association, puzzled by the large crowd gathered outside. He wonders if the press has learned about the events in the dungeon, but he doesn't seem to recognize any of them, so it's fine. Jinwoo contemplates how he can get through the throngs of people blocking his path. He tries to push his way to the front of the building, but is stopped by a security guard who loudly asks if he works for the association and points out the many reporters present. Jinwoo replies that he has an appointment. Lee Min-sung notices Jinwoo and thinks to himself that he should be kicked out by security. As the guard continues to insist that Jinwoo cannot enter, a man suddenly steps out, surprising everyone. It turns out to be Chairman Go Gun-hee, who tells the security guard to let Jinwoo in, stating that Jinwoo is his guest. Chairman Go then questions Lee Min-sung about who gave him permission to hold a press conference in front of the association's office. With that, Jinwoo enters the office alongside Chairman Go. The reporters are curious about the hunter who has entered with the chairman. Meanwhile, Min-sung is furious that Jinwoo has disrupted his plans. He orders his security to find out who Jinwoo is and begins to worry about how he can regain the spotlight now that the reporters are whispering and speculating. Realizing he needs to start an evaluation to reclaim attention, Min-sung announces to the reporters that he will return after discussing his schedule with the association officials. As Min-sung tries to enter, he is confronted by Hunter Woo Jin-chul and other members of the Hunter Association. Jin-chul informs Min-sung that a hunter is currently undergoing an evaluation and that no one is allowed to enter until 11 o'clock. Min-sung is shocked to learn he has to wait another 30 minutes, unable to believe what he hears. He suspects that the hunter being evaluated is the one escorted by the chairman. Min-sung persists, stating that reporters are already present and that he has a scheduled appointment at 11 o'clock, asserting that even the chairman knows this. He questions Jin-chul about why he won't allow him entry. Min-sung approaches Jin-chul aggressively, boasting that he is Lee Min-sung. Jin-chul responds that he can only enter at 11 o'clock when the evaluation begins. Min-sung retorts that Eugene Construction is the largest sponsor of the Hunter Association and that his father, Lee Won-gyu, owns it. He claims that if Jin-chul knew how much money they paid the association, he would probably kneel before him. Min-sung points out the throng of reporters and accuses Jin-chul of undermining him in front of the cameras, demanding to know if Jin-chul can handle the consequences of his actions. Jin-chul responds with a simple yes. This infuriates Min-sung, who shouts, "Who do you think you are? What makes that hunter so special?" Jin-chul removes his glasses and, with a piercing gaze, replies that he will answer Min-sung's question if he can indeed handle the consequences. Intimidated, Min-sung falls silent and trembles in fear. The scene shifts inside the Hunter Association, where Jinwoo walks alongside Chairman Go Gun-hee. As they pass, the two guild masters, Yoon-ho and Jong-in, bow respectfully. Chairman Go mentions to Jinwoo that they have been waiting for nearly an hour. He adds that it has been almost 2 years since the last S-rank hunter appeared, and now that other guilds have seen Jinwoo's strength, they must be eager to recruit him. They arrive at the re-evaluation room, where an evaluator explains that they need to check Jinwoo's skill set to determine his class. The evaluator asks Jinwoo what skills he can use. Jinwoo summons a shadow soldier, shocking everyone in the room. The evaluator is startled and asks Jinwoo to confirm his capability. Chairman Go interjects, noting that he knows this is not all Jinwoo can do. Jinwoo realizes that he can no longer lie about his abilities since many have witnessed his battles. Recently, he has managed to create a number of shadow soldiers due to his encounters with high orcs, and he proceeds to summon even more shadows. The room is filled with astonishment as Jinwoo's army of shadows surrounds them. He mentions that he can summon over 100 more. The evaluator struggles to comprehend what he is witnessing, especially as Jinwoo's capabilities seem beyond belief. Guildmaster Baek Yoon-ho reflects on Jinwoo's true strength, calling it insane, and he wonders how Jinwoo has become so powerful since their first meeting. Yoon-ho feels overpowered by Jinwoo's presence. As Jinwoo prepares to leave, Yoon-ho calls out, asking if they can talk briefly. However, Jinwoo politely declines, stating that he has unfinished business to attend to. As he exits, both guild masters warn him that if they were in his position, they wouldn't leave the building that way. Unfazed, Jinwoo steps out, and as he does, he is greeted by a flurry of camera flashes, catching him off guard. Chapter 78 began with Jinwoo being shocked as he emerged from the building, greeted by a barrage of camera flashes from reporters. The event was even televised. As it was also broadcasted live, the news quickly reached his sister Jina at school. Songyi, who was with her, pointed out that her brother was on TV. Jina couldn't believe her eyes when she saw it. The scene then shifted to 10 minutes earlier, where Lee Min-sung was seen outside, desperately trying to regain the attention of the reporters. He announced that even if he received a low rank, he would still fight the magic beasts to regain his fans. He further declared that he had promised to be a hunter who would serve the people. This statement caused another frenzy among the reporters, as they believed Min-sung might willingly sacrifice his title as Asia's biggest star, even if he received a low rank. However, what they didn't know was that Min-sung was simply saying this to capture their attention. His claims were lies. He had already been evaluated as an A-rank hunter. His only focus was the millions he would earn from promoting the Fiend Guild. He also thanked Lim Taegyu, the guild master of the Fiend Guild, for inviting him. But just as Min-sung was basking in his own pride, chaos erupted among the reporters when news broke about a new S-rank hunter, with the source being the Hunter Association. While Min-sung remained unaware that the commotion had nothing to do with him, it was actually caused by Jinwoo being officially listed as the 10th S-rank hunter in South Korea. This revelation made the reporters quickly realize that the reason the evaluation center had been closed was because of Jinwoo, not Lee Min-sung. They rushed to the front of the office, ignoring Min-sung. However, they were stopped by the association members, including Woo Jin-chul. While the reporters tried to push through, Min-sung could hardly believe what he was hearing. To make matters worse, his personal guild reporter had abandoned him, saying he would just call him later. Soon after, the headline for the next day's news was changed to, "From Loser to Hero, the remarkable rise of an E-rank to an S-rank." Upon hearing this, Min-sung felt even more deflated. The scene then shifted back to Jinwoo, who had just exited the building and was once again bombarded by flashes from cameras. He had become the 10th S-rank hunter in Korea. The news reached his former fellow miners at the Hunters Guild, and they were just as surprised to see Jinwoo on TV. When Lee Sung-gu heard the news, he muttered that he had known all along that nothing good would come from this hunter. He had assumed Jinwoo was involved in some sort of crime, but upon realizing that he was the 10th S-rank hunter, he trembled in fear. Jinwoo's former colleagues, Jo-hee and Mr. Kim, also saw the news. Meanwhile, Jin-ho, who had heard the news about Jinwoo becoming an S-rank hunter, was talking to his father. His father asked if he succeeded in recruiting Jinwoo. Jin-ho bowed and apologized, saying he failed to recruit him. Instead, Jinwoo had invited him to join his own guild as the vice guild master. Upon hearing this, Jin-ho's father was shocked but smiled. He then asked if Jin-ho understood the real reason behind the creation of the Eugene Guild. Jin-ho replied that it was because it offered a great profit. His father responded that, for now, he had enough money for a lifetime. The purpose of Eugene Guild's creation was to protect their people. As more and more hunters grew stronger, it was no longer surprising to see hunters who were as powerful as a country's combined armed forces. These hunters were called national-level hunters, and they surpassed even S-rank hunters. His father emphasized that they couldn't rely on the government's legal system to protect them. The real goal behind the creation of the guild was to recruit trustworthy hunters. His father believed that Jin-ho had found someone like that in Jinwoo. Because of this, he gave his approval for Jin-ho to lead the Eugene Guild. He further advised Jin-ho to expand the guild and gather allies he could trust. Jin-ho was stunned by his father's words, but simply thanked him. However, he politely declined the offer. His father's expression turned serious, and he asked why. Jinwoo replied that he had decided to join Jinwoo's guild. The scene shifted back to the Hunter Association office, where Jinwoo was surrounded by reporters. He wondered why he was the one being photographed instead of Lee Min-sung. The reporters asked him if he was Sung Jinwoo, the E-rank hunter, and inquired about his feelings after his reawakening. They urged him to look at the camera, as the entire country of South Korea was watching. Baek Yoon-ho approached him and said he was there to take him home, warning him that talking to the reporters would just wear him out. Suddenly, Jinwoo vanished from Yoon-ho's sight, leaving everyone in shock. It seemed as though he had teleported through the crowd. Yoon-ho was shocked at what he had just witnessed. He noted how fast Jinwoo had moved, commenting that it wasn't just about strength. He realized that when they met in front of the evaluation room, Jinwoo had already grown exponentially stronger. Yoon-ho was perplexed. If Jinwoo's reawakening had happened long ago, why had he become so much stronger now? He began to suspect that Jinwoo might not just be a reawakened hunter, but a hunter who was leveling up. Chapter 79 begins with a live TV broadcast featuring Jinwoo, the first S-rank hunter, after 2 years. Hwang Dong-soo, still in the hospital, watches the broadcast and wonders why Jinwoo is still alive. He feels a mix of anger and frustration. The scene shifts to an auction house where the auctioneer is inspecting a crystal ball. He can't believe that the magic orb has a 100% amplification rate, as even the best artifact craftsmen can only create artifacts with a 50% amplification rate. The auctioneer thinks that Mr. Choi Jong-in would surely buy it for a good price. He asks Jinwoo where he got the orb, to which Jinwoo responds that it came from a dungeon. The auctioneer is curious, asking if it's really from a dungeon, and then offers to auction the item, confident it will fetch a high price. Jinwoo replies that he'll think about it. In his thoughts, Jinwoo considers returning to the demon castle as soon as possible to complete the holy water of life. He needs an artifact to protect him from the flames inside the castle. He asks the auctioneer if they have anything that can protect him from fire, and whether it's difficult to find such an item, since he couldn't find anything online. The auctioneer explains that while fire protection artifacts are common, they're expensive, and they usually don't list them online. However, if Jinwoo is willing to buy, they're easy to acquire since fire is one of the most common types of magic. Jinwoo reflects on this, recalling how Mr. Song, Jong-in, and even his own shadow mages use fire magic. When they enter a room filled with artifacts, the auctioneer asks if Jinwoo finds anything he likes. Jinwoo notices that the artifacts are protected only by a thin sheet of glass, with no other visible security measures. The auctioneer explains that the glass is imbued with mana, making it strong enough to withstand an attack from an A-rank hunter. He adds that if Jinwoo doesn't believe him, he can try to crack the glass and he can get all the items inside. However, just as Jinwoo's aura shifts, as if preparing to punch the glass, the auctioneer becomes scared and quickly says it was just a joke, explaining that if the glass breaks, elite members from the Hunter Guild will be called. The auctioneer, confused, wonders how Jinwoo, who is known to be a mage-type hunter, has such confidence. Jinwoo then asks if the auctioneer has any weapons he could try, specifically a dagger. As they leave with the weapon specialist, the auctioneer notices a crack in the glass. He wonders if Jinwoo was responsible, although he never touched the glass. They move on to discuss daggers, and Jinwoo asks how much one of them costs. The auctioneer replies that it is priced at 30 million won. Jinwoo thinks to himself that, although it is only B rank and weaker than his Night Killer, it is still expensive. He wonders if it's comparable to Kasaka's Venom Fong. Curious, Jinwoo shows his dagger, asking how much it could be sold for. The auctioneer is amazed upon seeing it, recognizing it as the work of a skilled craftsman. Jinwoo, however, knows he bought it from a shop. The auctioneer estimates its value at 100 million won, at the very least. Jinwoo is shocked, remembering he bought it for only 2.8 million gold. He realizes that this must be the true value of items in this world, as he recalls Mr. Kim's sword, worth 3 million won, which only increased his attack by 10, and Jinho's armor and equipment, which cost millions but had minimal effects. Given that items in the shop can be sold here for high prices, Jinwoo concludes there's no reason to sell the Orb of Avarice. The scene then shifts to the White Tiger Guild's headquarters, where Guildmaster Baek Yoon-ho is deep in thought about Jinwoo. He wonders if it is really possible for a hunter to constantly level up. He's sure that his enlightened state allows him to read his opponent's skill level, and from the moment they first met at the Red Gate, he knew that Jinwoo was much weaker. Baek Yoon-ho concludes that Jinwoo is unlikely to join any guild. Given his strength, he could easily start his own guild, which could become the best, or at least second best in the country. If he grows even stronger, Baek Yoon-ho is certain Jinwoo will be number one. Realizing this, he thinks that they may be wasting their time trying to recruit him. The next scene takes place at Jinwoo's apartment. Because of his recent rise to S rank, the news reports that he underwent a second awakening, jumping 5 ranks from E rank to S rank. Chiefon, accompanied by other reporters, arrives at Jinwoo's apartment. Chiefon is still determined to recruit Jinwoo, hoping that one more attempt will convince him to join their guild. When they arrive, there is a swarm of reporters outside. The woman accompanying on asks if Jinwoo is really inside, since it's difficult to meet him with so many reporters around. Chiefon realizes they should have camped out earlier to secure an early meeting. Jinwoo's sister peeks out of the apartment and is shocked by the number of reporters outside. When some reporters notice her, they start taking pictures, so she quickly hides again. Jinwoo sees her and asks if she wants him to ask the reporters to leave. She replies no, mentioning that he has already received a lot of hate comments online and doesn't want to receive more. Jinwoo is confused and asks where all the hate comments are coming from. Her sister explains that he had forgotten about the time he snubbed the reporters. Just then, someone knocks at the door, and Jinwoo assumes it's more reporters. Annoyed, he opens the door but is surprised to find it's not reporters. It's Jinho, who has been kicked out by his father. Jinwoo is taken aback. Jinwoo asks why Jinho isn't staying at his own place, and Jinho explains that his apartment is also under his father's name, and he is asking Jinwoo for a favor, to let him stay temporarily. Jinwoo's sister, Jina, comes out and asks who's at the door. Jinwoo replies that he doesn't know the person and has never seen him before closing the door. Jinho continues knocking, but Jinwoo doesn't open it again. The scene shifts to Jinho's home, where his mother asks his husband why he's being so harsh on Jinho. His father replies that it's not enough. If Jinho wants to make something of himself, he needs to forge his own path, not work for someone else. Suddenly, Jinho's father feels a strange sensation in his head. His vision blurs and fall on his knees. Chapter 80 began with Jinwoo entering his sister's room to check on her before leaving for the demon castle. He was concerned that someone might try to approach her while he was away. Jinwoo called his shadow orc guards, saying that one shadow soldier would likely be enough to fend off an A-rank hunter, just in case. However, he noticed something strange. As far as he knew, Tusk had 4 guards, but only 3 had left. An orc guard pointed upwards, and Jinwoo suddenly remembered that he hadn't managed to shadow that particular orc because it had gotten stuck in the ceiling. He instructed one orc guard to stay and watch over his sister while the other 2 would act as backup if needed. He also decided to place shadow soldiers and mages around the neighborhood to patrol. He called this group the Neighborhood Watch. He reminded them to be careful not to be seen while they were on patrol. The shadow soldiers quickly followed his orders and began their rounds. Jinwoo thought that even if someone with ill intentions appeared, his shadow soldiers would still win, unless it was an A-rank hunter. He considered this a small contribution to society. The scene shifted to the next day, with Jinwoo and Jinho on the road. Jinwoo asked if Jinho had slept well the previous night. Jinho replied that he had, as the motel facilities were decent. Jinwoo commented that it was fine, and said he could stay there until Jinwoo found space for their guild. In his mind, Jinwoo couldn't believe that Jinho had turned down the guild master position offered to him by his father. Perhaps Jinho had refused because of him, and Jinwoo knew he couldn't speak ill of it. Jinho then asked what business Jinwoo had at Daesung Tower so early in the morning. Jinwoo didn't respond but simply said, "I'll be back," as he closed the car door. Jinho was left surprised. The scene then shifted to Jinwoo's return to the demon castle. He knew that the difficulty level of the dungeon would surely be higher this time, so he had come prepared. He had purchased new items to protect him from flames while inside. Among them were a windrow and a nameless ring imbued with water magic attributes. As Jinwoo ventured deeper into the dungeon, a quest notification suddenly popped up on his system. This was a regular quest, where he needed to defeat Baran, the Demon King on the top floor, and collect its soul. The rewards included a top-tier rune stone, 30+ bonus stats, and an undisclosed reward. Jinwoo noticed that the rewards were much better than last time. The first reward, the top-tier rune stone, would grant him a job-specific skill called Shadow Exchange, similar to skills he had obtained before, such as Shadow Extraction, Shadow Preservation, and Monarch's Domain, all of which had been incredibly helpful. Jinwoo thought that perhaps this new skill would be just as remarkable. The system then popped up, stating that floors 1 through 76 were open, and asked where he wanted to go. Jinwoo chose floor 76, and he was instantly transported there. Upon arriving on floor 76, Jinwoo was met with a massive number of demon monsters. He quickly summoned his new shadow, Tusk, which he cast a fireball, topped by the Orb of Avarice, and used 3 spells simultaneously. A dragon's head appeared behind him, much like during their first battle. Tusk unleashed a powerful fire breath that decimated the demon monsters it hit. In an instant, numerous top-ranking demons were defeated, and Jinwoo gained a massive amount of points. Even Jinwoo was astonished by what he saw. Despite Tusk using the Orb of Avarice, it was still nerfed as a shadow soldier. However, given Tusk's impressive strength, Jinwoo decided to let him continue using the Orb of Avarice for now. The scene shifted again, this time to the emergency center of a hospital where Jinho's father had been admitted. He asked the doctor how long he had been in the hospital. The doctor replied that he had been unconscious for 2 days in a row. The father speculated that perhaps he had just been exhausted and asked if there was anything wrong with his body. The doctor then inquired if he had been in close contact with a hunter or an awakened individual. The question puzzled him, and he asked why the doctor was asking such a thing. The doctor asked if he already had heard of a condition called eternal slumber, in which individuals cannot regain consciousness, not because they are incapable of waking, but because their life force has been drained. The only solution to keep them alive is to use a life support device powered by mana. This illness had appeared after the gates opened, and it could kill many who couldn't afford the life support. Patients diagnosed with eternal slumber experience constant drowsiness and cannot wake up after sleeping. Jinho's father asked what this had to do with hunters. The doctor replied that mana was said to have a deep correlation with the disease. Some people were naturally predisposed to being mana intolerant, and the symptoms of eternal slumber developed after prolonged exposure to mana. The doctor warned him to be cautious around essence stones, mana crystals, and individuals who had been endowed with mana. He suggested that the symptoms might have been triggered in him and asked if there were any hunters in their family. Jinho's father thought he had been exposed to mana because of Jinho. He couldn't believe that out of so many people, he was the one who had contracted this disease. However, he told himself, it's not yet the end. The scene then shifted to an island off the coast of Japan, where a living ant had successfully landed on shore. Chapter 81 begins in Japan, where 2 hunters are walking together. As they pass an elderly man, he thanks them for keeping the neighborhood safe. He also asks if the hunter accompanying the other is a newcomer, to which the latter replies with a yes. The elder then warmly welcomes the newcomer. The other hunter tells the newcomer that it's important to do daily rounds to get to know the townspeople. This is because if a gate opens on their remote island, they will be doomed. If they take too long to find the gate, a dungeon break could occur, wiping out the entire town. Thus, they must locate the gate quickly using a mana meter and contact the hunters outside for help. It will take 3 days for reinforcements to arrive, meaning they must find the gate within 3 days of its appearance. He also tells the newcomer that they are the only hunters in town and must therefore take their responsibilities seriously. As they walk, the newcomer suddenly notices something walking toward them, a monstrous ant. The scene shifts to the demon castle, where Jinwoo has already defeated many demon monsters. He realizes that since his intelligence stat increased, so did the number of shadows he could extract and preserve. However, he cannot extract demons. Jinwoo thinks that if he could, he would likely have a massive army by now. Jinwoo also reflects on how inefficient it is to have his soldiers follow him around, so he decides to split them up to operate more efficiently. He divides his shadow army into 6 teams: Team Tusk, Team Igris, Team Iron, Team Tank, Team High Orcs B, and Team High Orcs A. He tells his teams that they have two tasks. First, to split up and defeat any enemies they encounter, and second, to report to him if they find an entry permit for the next floor. He then instructs them to disperse, and they quickly comply. In his mind, Jinwoo knows he must leave all items behind except the entry permits since his priority is to reach the top floor as quickly as possible. Suddenly, a massive amount of experience points pops up on Jinwoo's system. He realizes that, even though his soldiers have just dispersed, he has gained a lot of experience points. He finds it convenient since he no longer has to waste time running around. As long as his soldiers don't get defeated, he doesn't need to use mana either. However, his infantrymen and mages are struggling against high-ranking demons on this floor, so he has to constantly use potions to recharge his mana. Days pass in the demon castle, and Jinwoo receives a notification that Tank has leveled up to rank Elite. His other soldiers also level up. Jinwoo realizes that hunting in groups is very efficient. He still has 20 more floors to climb, but he notices he's making faster progress than expected, reaching the 80th floor quicker than anticipated. 2 days later, Jinwoo is still on the 80th floor, and he wonders if the reason the entry permit hasn't appeared is that there are strong demons on this floor. Suddenly, he notices his mana decreasing rapidly, indicating that his shadow soldiers are being relentlessly defeated. He realizes that whoever is attacking them must be very strong. Iron's team is quickly losing, and Jinwoo is shocked that there's something even stronger than Iron on this floor. He has no choice but to call back his shadows. Another day passes, and Jinwoo realizes he needs to withdraw his troops due to a series of attacks. Team B and Team Igris have suffered consecutive losses. Jinwoo deduces that the demons on this floor must be extremely strong. Then, Jinwoo notices something strange. It seems that after defeating Team Igris, the enemies chose to go after Team High Orcs B instead of Team Tusk, meaning they are selecting enemies they can defeat. Jinwoo realizes that these demons are intelligent enough to identify the weaknesses of their opponents. He speculates that they intentionally attacked Team High Orcs B and that their next target must be Team Tank. Jinwoo immediately heads to the location of Team Tank to see what kind of enemies they are facing. He sees a demon noble and 3 demon knights on horseback. Tank roars loudly, but one of the knights attacks and defeats him in an instant. Jinwoo realizes that this is the reason his soldiers have been getting defeated so quickly. He understands that if this continues, his shadow soldiers will stand no chance. Jinwoo uses stealth to join the fight. He swiftly attacks one of the knights, delivering a high kick to its face. Afterward, another knight charges at him, but Jinwoo disappears in an instant, then reappears in front of the knights. With multiple slashes, he defeats the knight and gains 3,000 experience points. Jinwoo quickly moves on to the next knight, using multiple slashes again, earning even more experience points. Afterward, only the demon noble remains. Jinwoo prepares to strike and wonders if monsters can feel fear. When he sees the monster trembling in front of him, he realizes he has his answer. Chapter 82 began with the noble demon launching an attack on Jinwoo using a spear. The demon rapidly executed several stabbing strikes, but Jinwoo easily dodged them. He noticed that the demon was specifically targeting his vital points, his forehead, neck, and heart. From his experience in the demon castle, Jinwoo knew that demons were ranked in various tiers. These included low-ranking demons, D rank, mid-ranking demons, C rank, high-ranking demons, B rank, top-ranking demons, A rank, demon lords and knights, A+ rank, and finally, the demon nobles and bosses, S rank. Jinwoo realized that this was likely how demons were categorized within the demon castle. Jinwoo retaliated with a slash from his dagger, which broke the noble demon's sword. As he grabbed the demon's face armor, he prepared for another strike. However, just as he was about to land the blow, he heard a voice say, "I surrender." Jinwoo was surprised, as lately he had encountered beasts capable of speaking the human language. When Jinwoo removed the demon's face armor, he discovered that the demon was actually a woman. She apologized, claiming that she and her allies were not at fault, and begged Jinwoo to spare her life. Jinwoo responded that after he had attacked her soldiers, she was now asking for forgiveness. The demon woman admitted that they had committed terrible sins, but as guardians of the area, they were only doing their duty to protect it. She pleaded for her life, claiming that they could not allow a scumbag, or rather, a person like Jinwoo, to hunt down the demons. Jinwoo asked her if it was acceptable for her to beg for her life now that all her comrades were dead. The demon woman replied that it was the knight's duty to protect their master, and they would surely be happy as long as she was safe. Jinwoo, while observing her smile, thought that the demon was quite selfish. He then realized that, despite her appearance, she looked like a human, and it felt wrong to stab her. As he turned his back, the demon woman attempted to backstab him. However, just as her dagger was about to strike, a magical shield appeared, summoned by Tusk, which startled the demon woman. Confused, Jinwoo asked her what she was doing. The demon woman immediately knelt and begged him to spare her life, offering to give him anything he wished. Jinwoo, skeptical, wondered if she truly had no shame, or if she was simply overly optimistic. He then asked if she could provide him with an entry permit. Tusk used levitation to lift the demon woman as she spoke to Jinwoo. She quickly responded that their clan had an entry permit, but she would give it to him only if he helped her return to them. Jinwoo realized that demons must safeguard their entry permits, which explained why he had been unable to find one. The demon also claimed to know the locations of other entry permits on different floors and promised to guide him if he guaranteed her safety and that of her clan. Jinwoo found the offer tempting but wondered if he could trust her. He brought the demon closer to his face, looking at her closely. Suddenly, she blushed. Jinwoo asked her seriously whether he could trust her. As he released a powerful aura, the demon woman quickly responded, assuring him that she was not lying. Jinwoo activated his bloodlust skill and gave the demon a chilling look. She immediately promised to help him. Convinced, Jinwoo lowered her and stated that as long as she provided the entry permit, he would leave the area quietly. The demon woman thanked him, then Jinwoo asked her who they truly were. The scene shifted to Japan, where a giant ant killed 2 hunters it encountered. A guard at a store saw the attack, but was too afraid to intervene, trembling in fear. The ant noticed the guard and killed him too before flying away. It left behind many victims as it soared into the distance. Back inside the demon castle, the demon woman introduced herself as Esil, the eldest daughter of the Radairu clan. Jinwoo responded that this was not the answer he was looking for, but he also realized that getting a straight answer would be difficult since they were monsters. He asked again if she heard voices telling her to kill humans. Esil was startled by the question and paused before answering. She admitted that while she did not hear voices telling her to kill humans, she constantly heard voices instructing her to protect the area she occupied. Jinwoo considered that perhaps these monsters existed for a different reason. While magic beasts aimed to kill humans, the demons seemed to only want to protect their land. He wondered if they viewed him as a magic beast as well. Jinwoo then asked when she first began hearing these voices. Esil responded that she had heard them ever since they woke up in this place. Jinwoo was shocked because it implied they were originally from somewhere else. He wondered if understanding this could help him figure out how his system worked. Curious, Jinwoo asked where they had come from before arriving here. Esil revealed that they were from the demon realm, but one day they suddenly found themselves in this place. Jinwoo, puzzled, asked what they had been doing in the demon realm. Just as he asked, it seemed as if Esil had a sudden error, as if something or someone was controlling her. But she managed to say they had been preparing for war. Chapter 83 began with Jinwoo asking what kind of war Esil was referring to. Esil replied that they had been preparing for a powerful enemy, and the combined forces of the entire demon race were needed. Jinwoo was taken aback by what he heard. Afterward, Esil suddenly mentioned that she had already said too much, and their conversation would be terminated, as though someone was controlling her. Jinwoo noticed that this situation seemed similar to when he asked questions to Baruka inside the Red Gate. The system was forcefully terminating their conversation, which meant that it held a clue about the system. He began to think about the leveling up process, instance dungeons, quests, missions, rewards, penalties, and job changes. All these elements existed in a game-like environment, suggesting that the monsters he faced might be another component of this system. Jinwoo asked again what kind of enemies they were preparing to fight. Esil could no longer answer and clutched her head as an electric shock seemed to pass through her, causing her to lose consciousness. Jinwoo caught her in his arms. He realized that the system reacted strongly when he asked about the enemies. Jinwoo thought that the system's power seemed otherworldly, and if the system was influencing either him or the world at large, it meant the demons he was fighting might hold the answers to everything. The scene shifted to the Korean Hunter Association office, where they were watching footage from a black box about an ant beast's attack in Japan. The footage revealed how powerful the beast was, and even reinforced hunters couldn't handle it. One of the hunters in the video mentioned that this was no ordinary beast before he was quickly killed by it. The hunters in the video were puzzled, as the beast seemed to target the healers and E-rank hunters, weakening their forces. It appeared that their opponent was a beast with intelligence. The video stopped, and Hunter Jinchul explained that this was all the footage they had gathered. The mutant ant was defeated within a day, discovered on a small island next to the region where it had been exterminated. It seemed to have moved after hunting on the first island. Jinchul thanked the hunters who responded to the emergency call and successfully eliminated the threat. 4 E-rank hunters, 1 D-rank healer, and 1 C-rank hunter died on the battlefield. However, an A-rank hunter who helped midway was the main reason the mutant ant was finally eliminated. A member of the organization asked if what Jinchul is trying to say is that at least an A-rank hunter is needed to kill a mutant ant. Jinchul answered that there were 294 civilian casualties due to the mutant ant, and a total of 108 hunters had been dispatched. Although this may seem like an excessive number, the Japanese Hunter Association believed it was reasonable since the mutant ant had the ability to sense danger and escape. Japan's Hunter Association was highly organized, and if Japan suffered such heavy casualties, who knew what would have happened if the ants had headed toward mainland Korea? Like Japan, Korea had many islands, but without the same ability to monitor each one, it was a concern, as Jinchul pointed out while other members murmured in the background. Chairman Go then spoke, mentioning that the island 150 kilometers away from Jeju had been attacked. The fact that the mutant ants could fly that far showed that they were capable of reaching distant coastal provinces, even cities like Mokpo. If they changed course, they could potentially reach the northern regions like Jindo and Wando County. One panel member was shocked to learn that the ants could fly, noting that they resembled bees more than ants. Another panel member mentioned that South Korea was not capable of sending hunters to every island like Japan due to a lack of manpower. If they deployed a few low-ranking hunters, they would surely be slaughtered by the beasts. At that moment, everyone was wondering who could possibly help South Korea in such a situation. China or Russia might have the available hunters, but because of their vast territories, they were unlikely to assist. The United States had already refused to help since the first S-rank gate opened. Chairman Go admitted he had a headache thinking about the situation. After the meeting, Woo Jinchul called Chairman Go aside and revealed that he hadn't mentioned something important during the meeting. Someone had secretly contacted him for help, which is Huang Dong from the Scavenger Guild, who expressed interest in joining the upcoming Jeju Island raid. Chairman Go was shocked to hear this and questioned the intent behind it. Woo Jinchul agreed that it was likely not about the raid itself, but rather about meeting Sung Jinwoo. Chairman Go asked what Jinchul had replied, to which he had submitted a request to deny Huang's entry into South Korea, citing the conflict with Mr. Beck during the Red Gate incident. However, Huang was not the only one who had contacted them. Chairman Go was surprised and asked who else had reached out. Jinchul revealed that the call had come from a national-level hunter. The scene shifted back to the Demon Castle, where Esil regained consciousness. She wondered if she had simply fallen asleep, as she couldn't remember what had happened. Jinwoo told her that it seemed not all demons were united, pointing to the many demons he had defeated who had tried to attack her. Esil was surprised by this, realizing that Jinwoo had been protecting her while she slept. She thanked Jinwoo and explained that demons with no intelligence were not considered part of their kind. Jinwoo asked again how long it would take to obtain the entry permit. Then the scene shifted inside the castle, which appeared to belong to Esil's clan. Esil then asked a knight where her father was. The knight responded that he was on the throne, and also asked Esil who the man with her was. Esil introduced Jinwoo as an important guest, and they needed to show him respect. Esil's father, upon seeing Jinwoo, was shocked by his presence and asked who he was. Esil explained that he was her guest, but her father replied with confusion, asking what kind of guest brought an army of soldiers with him. Esil's father seemed to notice the large group of soldiers behind Jinwoo. Jinwoo realized that her father had sharp senses. Immediately, the knights drew their swords, aiming them at Jinwoo. Esil told them to stop. Calmly, Jinwoo replied that he had promised Esil he would leave if she gave him the entry permit. Upon hearing this, Esil's father swallowed hard. He thought to himself that if Jinwoo was the one who had been defeating demons at an insane rate, then even though their clan was ranked 20th, one of the weakest clans, they had no chance against him. Esil's father confirmed that Jinwoo wanted the entry permit. Jinwoo then added that he had one more request, to borrow Esil for a while. Even Esil was surprised by Jinwoo's action. In Jinwoo's mind, he needed Esil to guide him to the other entry permits on the other floors, since she knew their locations. However, he realized he might have said something wrong when he saw Esil's father's angry reaction. Quickly, he removed his hand from Esil's shoulder. Chapter 84 began with Jinwoo having a meal with Esil and her father. Her father asked Jinwoo again if he needed an entry permit and a guide. Jinwoo thought to himself that perhaps her father had misunderstood his earlier words about borrowing Esil. In Esil's father's mind, the mere fact that he was negotiating with a human hurt his pride. However, knowing that Jinwoo was strong and had dark soldiers, he decided it would be best to avoid engaging in battle with him. So, he asked Jinwoo if he could ensure that his daughter would not be harmed. Jinwoo quickly replied, assuring Esil's father, "You have my word." He smiled inwardly, thinking how unusual it was to encounter a demon who was so concerned about his daughter. Esil's father responded, "Very well," and handed Jinwoo the entry permit. Jinwoo opened it to confirm that it was indeed an entry permit. He thought to himself that now that he was on the upper floor, the permits were likely issued by the demon clans. He stood up and asked Esil if they could leave right away. Suddenly, a notification popped up in Jinwoo's system. "A demon noble has requested to join your party." The message explained that party members could use divination circles to travel between floors, and experience points would be divided among the members based on their contributions. Jinwoo realized that he could share experience points with other party members, but it would be distributed proportionally. He immediately told Esil not to try to participate in battles, and that he would take care of everything. Esil was surprised but blushed and agreed. Jinwoo glanced at her, puzzled by her reaction. The scene shifted to Jinwoo and Esil ascending to the next floor. He asked Esil if she was okay without her horse. Esil explained that only party members could move between floors, so she couldn't bring her horse along. She stopped and handed Jinwoo a liquor bottle that was favored by the Garsh clan, as her father was preparing a gift for other clans. Jinwoo asked why. Esil explained that taking the gift would make negotiations easier. Jinwoo asked if they were on good terms with the Garsh clan, to which Esil replied that they were not, as disputes between nobles were common in the demon realm. However, she assured him that the Garsh clan was at least reasonable. Jinwoo replied, "Good to know," and told Esil to wait for him outside. He wouldn't take long. As he walked away, his shadow army could be seen emerging from behind him. The scene then shifted to the Hunters Association office, where Chairman Go was talking to Woo Jin-chul and a national-level hunter. The hunter asked if they knew the whereabouts of Korea's 10th S-rank hunter, Sung Jinwoo. Woo Jin-chul responded that it was difficult to pin him down, and even their surveillance team was struggling to find him. The hunter questioned how he could be sure that what they were saying was true. Woo Jin-chul replied that the South Korean Hunter Association wasn't foolish enough to lie to a national-level hunter. The hunter smiled and said, "I see," before mentioning that he had heard about the scene caused by Hwang Dong-soo in Korea. He added that, because Hwang Dong-soo is an S-rank, he wasn't in a position to tell others what to do. The hunter then mentioned that aside from Sung Jinwoo, he wanted to ask the association to deny Hwang Dong-soo entry into the country, which had apparently already been done. Chairman Go confirmed, "Yes, correct," and the hunter concluded that there was nothing more to discuss, saying he would call if he needed anything in the future and shook Chairman Go's hand. Chairman Go thought to himself that while he was not a small person, in the presence of this hunter, he felt like a child. The hunter arrogantly remarked, "It's pretty chaotic in Korea lately due to what's happening in Jeju," and asked if his visit had given them false hope. He continued, "It's a shame. Even though I'd like to help, I'm just too busy. However, if South Korea is willing to pay to hire me, that's a different matter." The hunter then made his way to the door, mentioning that he had a flight to catch. Woo Jin-chul asked if it was okay for one of the surveillance team's hunters to accompany him. The hunter didn't respond directly but said, "By all means, just make sure everything we discuss stays on the down low." As the hunter left, Chairman Go asked Woo Jin-chul if it was foolish to think that the man would help with the Jeju Island raid. Woo Jin-chul assured him there was nothing to worry about, as Japan had agreed to cooperate with them. On the next scene shows a plane carrying the members of Japan's largest guild, who were scheduled to visit soon. The scene shifted back to the Demon Castle, where Jinwoo had defeated the Garsh clan's demon knights and nobles. As a result, he gained a significant amount of experience points and leveled up to 87. Jinwoo realized that his opponents were high level, which was why he was earning so many experience points. Even his other shadows had reached their max level and only needed to advance to the next rank, like Igris and Tank. The system asked Jinwoo if he would accept the advancement of Igris and Tank to the next rank. Jinwoo answered, "Accept." Immediately, a powerful aura surrounded both of his commanders, and it was evident they had become much stronger. Igris was promoted from Knight to Elite Knight, and Tank was promoted from Elite to Knight. Jinwoo was surprised by how powerful they had become. Igris now had the strength of an S-rank hunter, and Tank's strength was on par with a top-tier A-rank hunter. Esil then called out to Jinwoo, apologizing for interrupting, and addressed him as Sir. Jinwoo told her not to call him that anymore. She asked how many clans Jinwoo had destroyed so far. He replied that aside from their clan, he had defeated 9 others up to the 89th floor. Esil explained that from the 90th floor onward, top noble clans would manage the floors and would be significantly stronger than high-ranking nobles. She suggested that if he could negotiate like he did with their clan to obtain the permit, it would be best. Jinwoo then asked Esil, "If I were weak, would you still want to negotiate with me?" Esil was taken aback by the question. Jinwoo smirked and said, "That's how it is. Besides, you said there was a dispute between clans, so I'll do whatever it takes to make the Radish clan number 1. Esil, hearing this, corrected him, saying their clan was called the Radairu clan. Esil then asked why Jinwoo was helping their clan. He replied simply, "Because I've taken a liking to you." Esil blushed in surprise and stammered, "What?" Jinwoo thought to himself that she is like Jinho, and he seemed to get along with people who had a quirky side. Chapter 85 begins with Jinwoo realizing that his enemies have grown significantly stronger, just as Esil had warned him. The guards in the castles are more numerous, and the rank of these foes is higher compared to those he faced on the lower floors. Despite his intelligence stat increasing, the battles have become more draining as his shadows are repeatedly destroyed and regenerated. After numerous fights, Jinwoo reaches the 97th floor and achieves level 90. Esil reflects on Jinwoo's victories, having defeated the Ricardo clan, the 5th strongest clan, and the Paidos clan, the 4th strongest. She asks Jinwoo if all humans are as strong as he is. Jinwoo replies that perhaps 1 or 2 may be, thinking of Chairman Go and Cha Haein, both of whom he believes may be stronger than S-rank hunters. He also thinks that Cha Haein has a stronger aura than Choi Jong-in, the ultimate hunter. Jinwoo realizes that there's a significant difference in strength even among S-rank hunters, and that the gap is substantial because the mana meter cannot accurately measure their true power. He remembers that he was once as strong as Chairman Go, but now that he's reached the 90th floor, he wonders if their strengths are still the same. Jinwoo tells Esil that she can now leave and return to the lower floors, as he will handle things from here. Esil is shocked, stammering, wondering if she is no longer useful. Jinwoo places a hand on her shoulder and praises her for her efforts, thanking her for all her help. Esil, saddened by this, suddenly declares that she won't go back, and she wants to stay with him, eager to see what he can achieve. Jinwoo simply looks at her and says, "Suit yourself, then." At that moment, the system announces that they are entering the 98th floor. The scene shifts to Incheon International Airport, where a man and a woman have just arrived. The man is Goto Ryuji, an S-rank hunter from Japan. He inquires about the commotion, mentioning that there is an extremely powerful presence at the airport. His companion, who calls him Mr. Goto, asks if this person is stronger than him. Ryuji doesn't answer but ponders whether he might be mistaken. After all, what could such a powerful being be doing in such a place? Soon, a hunter from the surveillance team arrives, apologizing for the delay due to the large number of people. Ryuji tells him it's fine and asks if anything unusual is happening at the airport. The hunter responds that a US-based hunter has come to South Korea for personal business, and there's no cause for concern. Ryuji wonders why an American hunter is here, considering the recent events. The hunter gestures toward the exit. The scene transitions to the office of the Korean Hunter Association, where Chairman Go is meeting with Goto Ryuji. Chairman Go thinks to himself that, so this is Goto Ryuji, the only hunter in Asia who can compete with Liu Jigang, and he is surely no ordinary man. Japan currently has 21 S-rank hunters, with 11 belonging to the same guild as Ryuji, the Blade Guild. Unlike South Korea, where 5 major guilds compete, Japan has a single guild that holds all the power, and Ryuji's guild is the second largest in Asia, after the Chinese guild. Ryuji introduces his companion, Hanikawa, his interpreter, who will relay his words. Hanikawa mentions that due to the disastrous events, they have concluded that Jeju Island can no longer be ignored. They pledge to offer full support to Korea. Chairman Go is taken aback upon hearing this. Goto Ryuji quickly gets to the point, stating that he came to propose the creation of a united strike squad composed of top-ranking hunters. Chairman Go asks if this means an alliance will be formed to attack the ants at their base camp. Yes, exactly, Ryuji replies. Chairman Go acknowledges Japan's top hunters are extraordinary but warns that attacking Jeju Island, the heart of the ant colony, is far too dangerous. Ryuji counters that since this is an S-rank gate, they have already prepared a strategy. Hanikawa hands over a file containing data they've gathered on the ants. Ryuji explains that the strength of a single ant is equal to that of a high-ranking hunter, but their fatal weakness is their short lifespan. Ants only live for 1 year. Therefore, if they can kill the queen, all the ants on Jeju Island will perish within a year. Chairman Go thinks to himself that this plan sounds more feasible than trying to exterminate the entire colony, but he questions how difficult it would be to kill the queen, considering the ants would sacrifice themselves to protect her. Ryuji answers, of course, we'll have to pass through thousands of ants to capture their queen, but we won't have to fight them if we can get the ants to leave their tunnels. A panel member asks if that's even possible. Ryuji confirms it is, as it has happened 3 times before when South Korean hunters arrived on Jeju Island for a search and destroy mission. The ants left their tunnels and headed for the battlefield. Impossible, one panel member responds. Hanikawa assures them that the events were confirmed by their mana radars, and they can refer to the documents for further details. Ryuji adds that 10 of their 11 S-rank hunters, including himself, are planning to participate in the Jeju Island raid. They will distract the ants while South Korea's top hunters deal with the queen. The rest of his guild members will arrive soon. The panel members are stunned to hear that 10 S-rank hunters, including Goto Ryuji, will participate in the raid. Chairman Go thinks that if 10 S-rank hunters successfully create a diversion, only the queen and a few guards will remain in the tunnels. Ryuji further explains that their plan is to split into separate teams and attack from all directions, forcing the ants to focus on them while the queen stays in the empty tunnels. The South Korean S-rank hunters will infiltrate the tunnels by helicopter, defeat the queen, and then evacuate. Chairman Go finds the plan plausible but wonders why Goto Ryuji is so willing to risk sending 10 S-rank hunters for this raid. Goto Ryuji, in turn, reflects that all national-level hunters have raided S-rank gates before. Given his previous performance, completing the Jeju Island raid could earn him the title of national-level hunter, which would benefit Japan. As this is an S-rank gate, the 10 S-rank hunters were carefully selected to minimize risk. He believes that South Korea has no good reason to decline his offer. Chairman Go realizes that, unlike Japan, South Korea only has 8 S-rank hunters, and only 6 are capable of participating, himself excluded due to age, and Min Byung-gu, who is retired. He considers whether they can defeat the queen. Suddenly, Sung Jinwoo comes to his mind, as he defeated a boss solo in an A-rank gate. If he were to join forces with other S-rank hunters, there might be a chance. Chairman Go knows that time is of the essence, as the ants are evolving rapidly and their entire army may soon gain the ability to fly. After some thought, Chairman Go agrees with Goto Ryuji, stating that once they have assessed the documents, he will send a detailed plan. Back inside the demon castle, Jinwoo has reached level 93 and made it to the 100th floor. Suddenly, a massive wyvern lands on top of a ruined castle, creating a shockwave. Riding the wyvern is Baran, the Demon King and final boss of the demon castle. Jinwoo, stunned, mutters, "What a remarkable force," while wondering if he can defeat such a powerful monster. Chapter 86 begins with Esil staring at Baran in fear. Even from a distance, she can feel his bloodlust. This is also the first time she's seen the Demon King. Meanwhile, Jinwoo observes Esil trembling, his thoughts racing. He realizes that the monstrous energy radiating from Baran is so overwhelming that even Esil can sense it. Jinwoo also notices the beast Baran is riding, which is flying. He thinks that the flying opponent could be troublesome. Suddenly, Jinwoo's system pops up with the name of the monster, Kaizelin, a type of wyvern. He thinks to himself that besides Esil's horse, this is the first non-demon creature he's encountered in the demon castle. He wonders if mountable creatures are an exception, and since it's not a demon, it's possible he can extract its shadow. Without warning, Baran raises his sword and activates a skill called Hell's Army. From the ground, countless portals appear. A massive number of demon soldiers, knights, and generals emerge, surrounding Jinwoo and Esil. Jinwoo assesses the situation and concludes that the knights and generals are at least A-rank monsters, and there are over 100 of them. Suddenly, Jinwoo speaks up. Based on his observations, he estimates that there are about 1,000 demons, while Esil, panicking, asks him what they should do. As the demons slowly close in, Jinwoo remains silent, prompting Esil to ask again. When the demons are almost upon them, Jinwoo calmly responds, "Not yet." Meanwhile, flying demons approach as well, but Jinwoo watches, seemingly waiting for the right moment. Once surrounded, Jinwoo activates his skill, Monarch Domain. This allows him to create an area where any shadow will receive a 50% status increase while fighting. Then he shouts, "Come forth," and immediately, swords and spears burst from the ground, stabbing into the demons. Jinwoo's shadow swiftly defeats a large number of demons in a surprise attack from below. Esil is stunned by what she sees. Slowly, Jinwoo's shadows emerge, while some demons who weren't hit continue to approach him. Then, Jinwoo's generals, Tank, Iron, Igris, and Tusk, appear to confront the advancing demons. Tank releases a powerful strike with his claws, while Iron uses his axe to slash a demon's leg. Igris joins the fray, swiftly slashing at a demon with his sword. Tusk also doesn't hold back, using his skill, Hymn of the Blazing Fire. A wave of fireballs erupts from him, incinerating demons in their path. Esil is awestruck by what she's witnessing. Then she realizes that although Jinwoo's shadow soldiers easily defeat the other demons, the real threat is the Demon King, Baran, the supreme ruler of this place. Jinwoo, as the invader, is the one who must be eliminated. She then wonders, as a demon herself, who she should side with. At that moment, Baran generates a powerful energy ball in his mouth, launching it into the sky. A storm of thunder and lightning follows, devastating anything in its path. Jinwoo uses his coat to protect himself and Esil, the coat triggering a buff called immunity, which makes them resistant to abnormalities. He realizes that these aren't ordinary lightning strikes. They carry stun effects and have a wide area of impact. If he doesn't block the spell, his soldiers will be wiped out, and his mana will be drained. Deciding to strike, Jinwoo leaps toward the castle, aiming to cut off the wyvern's wings. As he gets close, Baran effortlessly blocks the attack with his sword. In retaliation, Baran swings his sword, sending Jinwoo flying into the ground, nearly unable to stand. Jinwoo is stunned when Baran generates another energy ball, firing it at him. Jinwoo barely avoids it, but a series of lightning strikes follow, and only his robe protects him. Suddenly, a powerful fireball intercepts the lightning strike, and Jinwoo is surprised to see its Tusk using him of the blazing fire along with the Orb of Avarice. The two forces, Tusk's fireball and Baran's lightning strike, clash. However, because Tusk used the Orb of Avarice, his fireball strength is doubled, overpowering Baran's lightning strike and continuing toward him. Jinwoo, relieved that he gave the Orb of Avarice to Tusk, watches as the wyvern falls from the sky, crashing to the ground. Jinwoo pointed his dagger at Baran and said, "Finally, you're down. I'm tired of looking up at you." Baran, however, stood unfazed, and Jinwoo realized this would be a tough battle. The chapter begins with Jinwoo contemplating that he has skills that do not require mana, such as Commander's Touch, and the skill he uses to preserve his shadow soldiers. The Commander's Touch allows Jinwoo to exert physical force on an object without requiring mana. The only thing to remember is that the higher the skill level, the heavier the object he can move. Likewise, since his shadow soldiers have already been preserved, Jinwoo doesn't need mana to summon them. However, if they are destroyed, the situation changes. Destroyed shadow soldiers consume mana to regenerate, and once Jinwoo's mana is depleted, his shadow soldiers can no longer regenerate. Because of this, Jinwoo realizes that it is crucial to increase his intelligence stat. On the other hand, Baran possesses incredible strength as well as powerful magical capabilities. Jinwoo wonders how Baran's soldiers manage to move. If his own soldiers cannot regenerate after being destroyed, resummoning them should be draining his mana reserves. In the next scene, Baran is seen walking while holding his sword, emanating a strong aura. He unleashes an energy ball from his mouth. Tusk uses the Hymn of Protection to block the attack. Jinwoo notices that his mana is running low, and Baran doesn't give him a chance to replenish it due to his continuous attacks. Regenerating his high-ranking soldiers consumes a lot of mana when they're destroyed. Despite this, Jinwoo realizes he cannot fight without the help of his shadow soldiers. His only solution is to win before his mana runs out. As Iron charges at Baran with his axe, Baran easily deflects the attack with his fist, then stabs Iron in the face with his sword, releasing a powerful lightning energy that finishes him off. Igris then decides to leap into battle, slashing quickly, but Baran effortlessly avoids the attack, smiling as he unleashes a powerful energy wave from his mouth, finishing Igris. Without wasting time, Jinwoo dashes towards Baran and activates his critical attack skill. However, Baran easily deflects the attack, and Jinwoo is stunned to find that even his critical attack doesn't seem to work. As Jinwoo stands before Baran, the latter grabs his head effortlessly and lifts him with one hand. With his sword raised, it looks like Baran is ready to finish him off. Just as Baran's sword is about to strike, Igris and Iron regenerate and block the attack with their sword and axe. This allows Jinwoo to stab Baran with his dagger in the arm, finally landing a blow. Igris also manages to pierce Baran's other arm to prevent him from moving it. Despite this, Baran just smiles, his eyes turning red. With a mighty roar, he releases an intense wave of energy, creating a powerful shockwave that pushes Jinwoo back. Despite this, the determination in Jinwoo's eyes is clear. Baran raises both hands, lightning crackling from them as two swords materialize in his grasp. Meanwhile, Jinwoo raises his own two daggers, preparing for an intense battle. Jinwoo dashes forward again, and his daggers land on Baran and startled by this attack. Baran retaliates with a series of quick slashes, which Jinwoo blocks. Jinwoo activates critical attack again and unleashes another slash, but it is once again deflected. Both warriors exchange rapid slashes, each deflecting the other's attacks. In the midst of the battle, Baran manages to generate energy from his mouth once more. Jinwoo is caught off guard by how close Baran's attack is, and Baran releases it. Jinwoo is unable to dodge in time and try to deflect the attack with his blades, but the impact is so powerful that it sends Jinwoo's blades flying. This gives Baran an opportunity to strike with both of his swords. However, Jinwoo manages to stop him by grabbing both of Baran's hands. At this point, Jinwoo is in awe of Baran's strength. He notices Baran preparing to unleash another energy ball from his mouth and wonders if Baran is not running out of mana. Just as Baran releases the energy ball, a sword strikes him, distracting him and halting his attack. Jinwoo is confused, not knowing where the sword came from. It turns out the sword was thrown by Esil, whose hands are still trembling from her action. Baran is distracted by the attack and looks at Esil. Seeing this as his chance, Jinwoo decides to use the intelligence stat he had heavily invested in and activates Commander's Touch. With all his strength, Jinwoo rips Baran's hand off, surprising his opponent. Jinwoo then declares, "It's enough. It's time to end this," his aura flaring as he delivers a powerful uppercut to Baran's head, so strong that it rips off. Esil shouts Jinwoo's name in shock as she witnesses the event. In the following scenes, Baran's body crashes to the ground, and Jinwoo receives a notification from the system that he has defeated Baran the Demon King. Jinwoo also collects Baran's soul and completes the quest to collect the demon souls. Esil runs quickly towards Jinwoo, calling his name again. While Jinwoo is exhausted from the intense battle and nearly collapses, he still manages to speak to Esil. He tells her to inform her father that the Radish clan is now the #1 clan, a victorious smile on his face. Esil, tearfully staring at Jinwoo, corrects him, saying their clan's name is the Radira clan, not the Radish clan. As the chapter ends, Jinwoo reaches level 97. The chapter began with Jinwoo defeating Baran. His shadow soldiers were busy collecting mana crystals. With his victory, Jinwoo had obtained several powerful items: the Demon Monarch's Ring, Demon King's Longsword, Demon King's Daggers, Baran's Horns, and the final item needed to complete the Holy Water of Life, the purified blood of the Demon King. The Demon King's Longsword had an attack boost of plus 350 and could activate the skill called Storm of White Flames every time it was swung. The Demon King's Daggers, with a plus 220 attack boost, and can trigger a skill called 2 as 1 when used together, which dealt damage based on the caster's strength stat. Jinwoo wore the Demon Monarch's Ring, and the system notified him that its effect would activate if he also wore the Demon Monarch's earring and necklace. His stats increased as a result. However, Jinwoo considered the purified blood of the Demon King to be the most important item. The liquid, which came from Baran's purified blood, contained powerful magic. Despite being purified, it still harbored poisonous substances. According to the system, in order to use it as a potion, Jinwoo would need the fragment of the World Tree, which he had obtained from Vulcan, and the spring water from the Forest of Echoes, which he had acquired from Metis, to neutralize the poison. Esil, watching quietly, wondered if Jinwoo was okay. Meanwhile, Jinwoo began crafting the Holy Water of Life. The system prompted him to confirm if he wanted to craft it, and Jinwoo quickly selected yes. The crafting process began, and the system displayed that the success rate and the number of items that could be crafted depended on the crafter's intelligence stat. Jinwoo thought to himself that if he had known earlier, he would have focused more on increasing his intelligence. Esil overheard him and pointed out that he shouldn't worry. If it was based on skill, there would definitely be no problem. The crafting began with the countdown. After the countdown finished, the system confirmed the successful creation of the Holy Water of Life, and Jinwoo couldn't help but shout, yes. Esil clapped in excitement as well. However, Jinwoo noticed that only some of the Demon King's blood had been consumed, and a small portion of the World Tree fragment had chipped away, but the spring water from the Forest of Echoes had vanished entirely. He realized that not all of the items would be depleted during crafting. Only the necessary amount was required. Staring at the crafted item, Jinwoo wondered if the Holy Water of Life could truly cure his mother's illness. He knew he needed to hurry and find out. At that moment, Iron appeared, dragging Baran's wyvern they had defeated. Jinwoo smiled, realizing that Iron had figured out what to do next. The other shadow soldiers gave thumbs up in approval. Jinwoo then said the word arise to extract the wyvern, and Esil was stunned as she had never seen Jinwoo do this before. Jinwoo explained that he had the ability to extract beings and make them his shadows, though he couldn't extract demons. However, it seemed that the wyvern was an exception. As the wyvern was successfully extracted, the system prompted Jinwoo to name it. Jinwoo tried to remember its name, but could only recall something like Kaizelian or Kalakalan. He asked the wyvern for its name, but it didn't seem to respond. Esil remarked that Jinwoo wasn't very good with names. Jinwoo finally decided to name it Kaisel. As he did so, the wyvern let out a powerful roar and flapped its enormous wings. Esil told Jinwoo that if they rode Kaisel, they would return to her clan in no time. Jinwoo wondered if he needed to descend through each floor to exit the dungeon quickly. Esil added that once they returned to the clan, they would hold a banquet, and her father would be pleased. Jinwoo didn't pay much attention, his mind still focused on the rewards he had yet to receive. Jinwoo then received his rewards from the regular quest. The first was a top-tier runestone that contained the skill Shadow Exchange. The second was a plus 30 bonus stat, and the third was an undisclosed reward, the title Demon Slayer. However, the system noted that Jinwoo hadn't met all the requirements for the title yet. Focusing on the first reward, Jinwoo cracked the runestone, and the Shadow Exchange skill was activated. This skill allowed him to swap places with a selected Shadow Soldier with a cooldown period of 3 hours, though it depended on the skill's level. Jinwoo was ecstatic, exclaiming that it was amazing to be able to swap places with his soldiers, essentially allowing him to teleport. Esil, however, seemed disappointed that Jinwoo didn't appear interested to her. She decided to help the Shadow Soldiers collect more mana crystals instead. Jinwoo, noticing their effort, said, "Good work, everyone," and told Esil he needed to leave without her. Esil, concerned, asked about the banquet. Jinwoo explained that her clan was on the 80th floor and that it was too far for him to join. He activated his new Shadow Exchange skill and said to Esil, "I'll see you around. Goodbye." In an instant, Jinwoo disappeared, and the system confirmed that Shadow Exchange had been activated. Esil, left speechless, looked at the Shadow Soldier that had taken Jinwoo's place, and they exchanged confused glances, unsure of what had just happened. The scene shifted to Jinwoo, who had returned to his neighborhood. Since he had defeated the dungeon boss, the area began to restore to its original state. Jinwoo smiled, pleased that his skill had worked, and noted that he could use it again after a cooldown of 2 hours and 59 minutes. He then called out to his new shadow, Esil, and mounted the wyvern. As they soared under the full moon and across the starry sky, Jinwoo was on his way to the hospital where his mother was being treated, the city lights shimmering below. Meanwhile, at the Hunter Association office, Woo Jin-chul and Chairman Go were discussing a video from Japan, where ants were detected using satellite cameras that could detect mana. Chairman Go thought to himself that all 3 of the destroy missions had been documented by the Japan Hunter Association, just as Goto Ryuji had assured. The ants crawled out of their tunnels, leaving behind the queen and her guards. According to the documents, their appearance had changed, which seemed to be proof that they were evolving with each generation. Each generation likely lasted about a year, since that was the average lifespan of the ants, Chairman Go added. He also worried about the guards protecting the queen, as well as the beasts that were likely guarding her, considering it was a high-ranking dungeon. He turned to Woo Jin-chul and asked, "Once the ants learn their queen is in danger, what are the chances they'll return to the tunnels before we get the job done?" Woo Jin-chul replied, "We'll be sending out jamming signals. The ants communicate with each other using special waves, so we can use radio signals to confuse them." Chairman Go then stated, "In that case, our only concern should be the queen and her guards." Just then, Chairman Go stood up, sensing a powerful mana wave from a distance. He wondered what was happening, prompting Woo Jin-chul to ask if something was wrong. Chairman Go quickly inquired whether Woo Jin-chul had managed to contact Jinwoo, to which Woo Jin-chul replied that he was doing everything he could. The scene then shifted to a restaurant where Baek Yoon-ho and another hunter were eating. Yoon-ho asked his companion if he had felt the strong mana waves. The hunter responded that even though he had retired from being a hunter, he hadn't lost his touch with such things. Still puzzled, Yoon-ho wondered what could have caused the wave. His companion jokingly said that it was likely the result of a clash between Choi Jong-in and Cha Hae-in over their share in the guild. As they joked and drank, Yoon-ho was told to turn that frown upside down, to which he laughed and agreed. Meanwhile, it was revealed that Baek Yoon-ho's companion is the retired S-rank healer, Min Byung-gu. Before we wrap up this arc, if you enjoyed the video, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Thank you. The chapter begins with Baek Yoon-ho and Min Byung-gu still drinking outside. Byung-gu asks Yoon-ho if he wants to hear something funny. Yoon-ho immediately replies, "No," to which Byung-gu responds with a mischievous, "Gotcha." In Yoon-ho's mind, everything about Min Byung-gu, including his sense of humor, seems a little odd. He is the first S-rank hunter to retire, despite being in perfect shape. In fact, he's not just the first. He's the only one in the world. Yunho also thinks that S-rank hunters are paid handsomely and wonders why Byung-gu quit being a hunter. After all, he doesn't come from a wealthy family. Suddenly, Byung-gu asks Yunho if he is serious about joining the Jeju Island raid. Yunho quickly answers with a confident yep. Byung-gu then asks, "But you saw how Yoon Seok died, right?" Yunho responds, "All the more reason I want to go," adding that if they don't deal with these ants, everyone in the country will suffer the same fate. Byung-gu raises an eyebrow. "When did you become so patriotic?" he asks. Yunho replies that he needs to go either way, so he might as well do it for a good reason. "Well, I'm not going." "No way in hell," Byung-gu says, noting that if Yunho is here to recruit him, he's talking to the wrong person. Before Byung-gu can finish, Yunho interrupts, explaining that he only came to say goodbye because he doesn't know what will happen to them. Byung-gu is stunned by this. He pauses, then shares that he's been preparing for the teacher certification exam because he wants to become a teacher and live a normal life. Yunho is shocked and confirms, "You really want to be a teacher?" Byung-gu nods, revealing that he knows about Eugene Construction building a guild and looking for experienced hunters. They contacted him for the guild master position, and several companies had offered him positions after his retirement. However, he explains, "I may not look like it, but I'm not cut out for a job where people die and kill." He shakes his head, his feet trembling as he continues, "That's why I want to take the teacher exam. I'm thinking of teaching Korean history." Yunho, still surprised, asks, "Why Korean history?" Byung-gu shrugs and says, "You know me. I love historical dramas." Yunho can't help but mutter, "You're such a nutcase." Byung-gu laughs and replies, "No, this is just what an ordinary life looks like. I just want to read about wars in history books, not fight in real life." In Yunho's mind, Byung-gu seems to be a normal person, and it's the hunters who are the abnormal ones. Yunho reflects that there aren't many hunters who don't want to fight magic beasts. Maybe a few healers, who are all about healing. Then, Yunho wonders if a desire for combat is a requirement to become an awakened being. But he quickly dismisses this idea. He offers Byung-gu another glass of alcohol, asking, "Another drink?" Byung-gu laughs and responds with a sarcastic, "Yes, Your Highness." The scene shifts to a hospital, where Jinwoo's mother is. Jinwoo has just arrived and opens the window to enter the room. As he does, he thinks that if anything goes wrong, there will be no turning back. He's unsure if his mother will be able to swallow the holy water of life and whether it will cure her. However, Jinwoo recalls how the system's effects on him were miraculous, and he needs to trust the system once again. He opens the bottle of holy water of life and approaches his mother. As he gets closer, his hands start to tremble, but he pushes forward, silently begging. After he successfully feeds her the holy water of life, he notices a scar on his mother's neck. The memory of when he was a child, trying to wash her hair and accidentally causing a burn mark on her neck, flashes through his mind. He realizes that even though he made a terrible mistake, his mother was always worried about him. As he looks at the scar, Jinwoo thinks to himself that he is the reason it's there. He then looks at her mother's face and sees that her color is slowly returning, but she still hasn't woken up. He pleads with her in his mind. This is the reason he's been working so hard to get stronger. "Please wake up," he whispers, his voice breaking. "Let me carry the weight that you've borne for all these years, Mom." Meanwhile, in Jinwoo's apartment, his younger sister wonders why she can't seem to concentrate these days. She steps outside and feels a warm gust of wind. Maybe summer is coming soon, she thinks, as the wind feels warmer than usual. Back at the hospital, Jinwoo waits anxiously for his mother to wake up. Then, suddenly, a silhouette of a woman appears behind the curtain. "Jinwoo, is that you?" the figure asks. It's his mother, now awake. She asks, "How long have I been sleeping?" Jinwoo can hardly believe his eyes. "For years," he responds, stunned. His mother is equally shocked. "Where is Gina? Is she okay?" Jinwoo, still trembling, assures her, "Yeah, she's doing well." After that, his mother smiled and thanked him for keeping his promise. His mother looks at his hands, which are covered in bruises and scars, and softly says, "My son, you've been through a lot, haven't you?" Unable to hold back his tears, Jinwoo's eyes fill with emotion. "Yeah," he whispers. And so ends the Return to Demon Castle arc. The next arc, one of the most anticipated in solo leveling, is the Jeju Island arc, where Jinwoo, after finally curing his mother of the eternal slumber, plans to stay behind to care for her. However, he's forced to change his mind when a monstrous ant appears during the raid,